Hello, everyone, and welcome on back into the barracks. Today, as you can tell by the title, if you were not aware, last week, Danny Masterson has officially been sentenced by the court, and he got 30 years to life in prison. And we're going to discuss the victim impact statements. We're also going to discuss the character letters that were sent on behalf of Danny by his friends and family. Mainly the ones sent by Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. We will be discussing that as well. And I will be giving you my opinions on the situation. Again, as someone who is studying to become a victim advocate. If you were not aware, I am currently studying, and I'm almost about to have my bachelor's in criminal justice, as well as a certificate in victim advocacy, and I'm looking to get into this career as a victim advocate. So, as I was reading these statements from the Jane Does, I was moved. They put so much power behind their statements, and I'm glad that the judge listened to him and they got to speak fully about what happened to them and how they felt, their trauma that they went through, and get to not only speak it to the judge and the court, but also to Danny, and he had to sit there and listen. And I think that is empowering for his victims. And I'm so glad that all three of them got to make their statements. So let's go ahead and get into some of the articles that I have found regarding the sentencing and his parole eventually. So let's just go ahead and start reading some of these articles that I found. So, That 70s Show star Danny Masterson was sentenced Thursday, September 7th, to 30 years to life in prison for raping two women more than 20 years ago at his Hollywood Hills home. Masterson, 47, showed no visible emotion after Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Charlene Almedo. I don't think I pronounced the judge's name right. I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce some names. Threw the book at him. I wouldn't say literally, figuratively. I'm not surprised that he showed no visible emotion. They always tell the defense to keep a poker face, the defendant to keep a poker face. If you show any visible emotion, it's just going to come back to bite you in the butt. Mr. Masterson, I know you're sitting here steadfast in your claims of innocence. He's going to keep... Sorry about that. He's going to keep claiming he's innocent. That's just... You have to for your appeal. You are right to appeal. And thus, no doubt, feeling victimized by a justice system that has failed you. The judge said just before she dispatched Masterson to prison. But Mr. Masterson, you are not the victim here. Good wording, Judge. Masterson's wife, Bijou Phillips, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his wife's name right. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm sorry. A model and actor who was a constant presence at her husband's trials, quickly donned a pair of sunglasses after the judge announced the sentence. She left the courtroom without a word. Not surprised. I'm sure she is struggling through it. Masterson was hit with the staggering sentence 4 months after he was convicted on 2 of the 3 rape counts he faced at his retrial in Los Angeles. He had been charged with raping 3 women, identified at trial as Jane Doe number 1, Jane number 2, and Jane Doe number 3, from 2001 to 2003. Some people on Twitter and TikTok have been, and also during some YouTube as well, have been revealing some of the names of the Jane Does. I have found the Instagram of one of them. I will not be showing her Instagram name. I think out of the respect of these women, if the courts are keeping them anonymous to the public and protecting them and their names anonymously, as Jane Doe's, and mainstream media is doing the same thing. I don't want to give my platform as a this is their name. No. To me, they're Jane Doe number 1, 2, and 3. That is how I feel about it. If some other people may not, that's fine. If they want to reveal their Instagram accounts or some of their names, that's fine. I'm referring to them as Jane Doe. I still will. And I will be showing you a screenshot from one of the Jane Does about how she felt about Ashton Kutcher's and Mila Kunis's letters to the court on his behalf. But I will not be showing her Instagram name. I'm just not going to. I don't feel that that's necessary, and that's right to do. The court is keeping them anonymous. Mainstream media is keeping them anonymous. Anonymous. So am I. So, Masterson, a once popular sitcom star, did not take the stand at either of his trials. Probably a good thing. He has, through his lawyers, repeatedly denied sexually assaulting the women. He's going to keep doing that. It's appellate court. He's claimed not guilty. Neither did Masterson make a statement at his sentencing. Again, doesn't surprise me. Instead, he sat silently as the 2 women who he was convicted of raping, as well as a former girlfriend, whose rape accusation the jury deadlocked over in May, took turns urging the judge to hit him with a harsh punishment. I don't agree with this wording. I think the punishment that they see is fair for what they went through. I don't see that as a harsh punishment. I don't like the wording that they put in this article. To me, they want to see him serve for what they have felt themselves, and they got to continue to see him live his life, his career, continue and be successful, while they felt the way that they felt trauma and pain and the amount of things that they went to with body image. I'm sure it's tough. They want to see him serve the justice and serve for what he did to them. I wouldn't say that's a harsh punishment. That is what they deem is fair for what they went through, and it's completely valid. So what they have said, when you raped me, you stole from me. Jane Doe number 2 told the court, that's what rape is, a theft of the spirit, and it is. So many people and victims would say the same thing, and it's 1000% true. You did part of how you feel about yourself, your body, is stolen from you. Confidence, you feel violated. It's an awful thing to go through, and I don't think many people understand that. You're pathetic, disturbed, and completely violent, she said. The world is better off with you in prison. I agree. Jane Doe number 1 said Masterson has not shown an ounce of remorse for the pain he caused. I knew he belonged behind bars for the safety of all women he came into contact with, she said. I am so sorry, and I am so upset. I wish I'd reported him sooner to the police. Jane Doe number 1 has every right to take the time that she need to work through this trauma. I think she wishes that she could report him sooner, to have the strength to report him sooner, so he could have been behind bars a long time ago. And I don't blame her, but I think they needed the time. All 3 of them did. And I think number 3 put it just as well, is that her viewing of her body, it was as a crime scene her entire life. And it's true, you do feel like that. You do feel like you've been robbed and violated, and it's your own body that you have to still live in. And I could not imagine going through that. I feel for these women. I truly, truly do. And I'm so glad that they had the courage to not only turn him in, report him, but also go through 2 trials, having to face him, having to testify against him, having to present their case to the court through the prosecution, but it's not easy to testify as a victim, especially having to look your victim in the eyes. He's not sitting that far away from you, and his lawyer is trying to discredit you. His lawyer is trying to paint a different picture from what actually happened. It is awful and terrifying to go through. And these women are so incredibly strong. And what they said, I'm sure there are so many victims just like them that have gone through this that are feeling the same way. And I'm so happy that they got to speak their voice and their story without having the lawyers try and paint a different picture or interrupt them or do the normal court dance. They got their time, as they have the right to do. In a post-sentencing statement, Los Angeles County District Attorney George, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, said he applauded the women for coming forward and participating in this process. Not many people would want to participate in this process. And those 3 women are so incredibly strong for being able to do it. The whole way, twice that they had to go through the trial. My hope is that the sentence will somehow bring them peace and that their bravery will be an example to others. One of my top priorities is to ensure that Los Angeles will no longer be a hunting ground for Hollywood elite who feel entitled to prey on women. And I think this would also go vice versa. Yes, it is definitely more prominent in Hollywood for them to go after women, young women even. But I do think that this could also happen to a man. And I want to urge that to people, that this is not just an anomaly for women. It could easily happen to men too. Men can be victims, men can be abused, and men can also have this happen to them when there's a woman in power. Is it common? No. But could it be? There's a whole bunch of unreported sexual abuse, rape, domestic violence, not just from women, but also from men. So I want everyone to keep that in mind as well. Hollywood elite can do the same thing to men. It's just not that common, or maybe it's just underreported. So, but yes, this prosecutor is doing good work. Sean Hawley, one of Masterson's lawyers, said in a statement that the legal battle is not over. Of course not. And though we have great respect for the jury in this case and for our system of justice overall, sometimes they get it wrong. Sure. And that's what happened here. That is an awful statement to make. When you're the defense, you need to lose with grace. To say that the justice system got it wrong and that the jury got it wrong for your client, that's not it. That's not it. That is not it. That is wholeheartedly wrong. You can say that you're disappointed by the jury's verdict. You can say that the legal battle isn't over. They're going to appeal, what have you. But to say that the jury and the justice system overall sometimes get it wrong, I don't agree with that statement, even if some people may feel that it is true. I have felt in my times of seeing cases endured that there were times that the jury got it wrong. But I also would put myself in the jury's shoes and try and see it from the evidence point of view and maybe their point of view and try and see how they got there. And most of the time I can see how they got there, whether how I feel about it or not. Mr. Masterson did not commit the crimes for which he has been convicted, and we and the appellate lawyers, the best and the brightest in the country, are confident that these convictions will be overturned. Sure. Doubt it. Masterson's first trial ended in November with a mistrial, with jurors leaning towards acquittal. His second trial ended with his being convicted of raping Jane Doe number 1, number 2, but not number 3, because the jurors could not reach a decision. I think it was a split still, but more were leaning towards acquittal. Either way, they still couldn't make a decision because there were jurors that probably did want to convict him. And again, I don't blame the jury. All three accusers are former members of the Church of Scientology, to which Masterson belongs. Both trials focused unwanted attention on this controversial church, which the women have accused of trying to cover up the allegations. I'm sure they did. At the retrial, Olmedo stressed that Scientology was not a defendant, but she allowed witnesses to testify that church officials pressured them not to talk to police about the rape allegations. Scientology spokeswoman Karen something repeatedly denied those allegations and insisted that the church doctrine requires members to abide by all the laws of the land. Sure, you can say that. Doesn't mean they do. After Masterson's sentencing, the church released a statement that did not mention Masterson by name. It said the prosecution's introduction of religion into this trial was an unprecedented violation of the First Amendment. It's not. They're lawyers. They would know better. And the judge wouldn't have gone with it either. The church was not a party in this case, and religion did not belong in this proceeding. The Supreme Court precedent has maintained for centuries. I think when it's this prominent in a case, it does warrant the context of it all. For correction, the previous version of the article stated the outcome of Masterson's retrial in May. He was not acquitted of the third count of rape. The jury was dead left in that count. Oh, okay, so they did a correction. That's nice of them. Thank you, NBC. So I want to also read some of the articles that have some other statements from the victims that have been made. I found also an article about how the victims have perceived the case. One of the two women that the 70s show star, Danny Masterson, was convicted of rape, told NBC News on Monday that 30 years to life sentence the judge imposed on the actor seemed like justice to me. In her first public word since Masterson was sentenced last week, the woman who was identified at the actor's trial as Jane Doe number 1 said that the penalty that Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Charlene Olmedo announced was what the law required. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the judge's name right. I apologize. I didn't think it was outrageous, she said in telephone interviews. It was nothing extra and nothing less. Jane Doe number 1 also praised the judge for reminding Masterson that you were not the victim here. Again, I agree that was so powerful of the judge to say. The judge's words when she addressed him were amazing. She said, that was optional, and she chose to. I felt heard. I really felt heard by her words to him. And that's what you need to hear from the judge, you know? You want to hear these types of things as a victim. It's great that she felt so validated. So, I also want to talk about of course, the character letters that were given. It's going to mention it. The character letters that were given by some of the people that Danny Masterson knew, actors. Some of them were, of course, a part of That 70s Show. The two that I know of course, was Danny was part of That 70s Show. So the ones that were part of That 70s Show, Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, and the two actors that played Red and Kitty, they sent character letters for him. I want to say this as one thing, and I don't want to sound like, oh, well, you're gonna say that these actors are fine for what they do. No. What I want to say is that not only is it the right of the victims to speak on their trauma, what they went through, how they feel about the accused, and how he hurt them, it is also the defendant's right to have character witnesses, to plead for a lighter sentence. That is the whole point of it. The victims are down to plead for a more fair, that what they seem as fair. The defendant's going to say the same thing. So, when he asked Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, or his family asked them, and anybody else, and everybody else who might have sent character witness letter, no matter how much bad someone did. And the biggest example I would like to kind of point towards is the fact of Daryl Brooks. If you guys don't know that case, Daryl Brooks ran over a bunch of people in Wisconsin during a Christmas parade. And he spoke on his behalf, which was really awful. He represented himself, which was a bad idea. And he had character witnesses from his mom and his grandma. Now, you're probably thinking, well, why would his mom and his grandma want to give character witness when he did it? When he hurt and killed people and hurt a lot of people, why would they give character witnesses? Why would his mom still associate with him? Why would his grandma still associate with him? You want to think that if these people are actually convicted, why would anyone want to still speak for them? And personally, I don't think we will ever know why they want to do it. His mom, it is in the end her son. She is his mom. You can't really blame them. And the same thing I would say for Ashton Kutcher Martinez for writing these character letters on behalf of Danny Masterson for the judge. Do I blame them for doing it? No. I don't blame them. They were, in the end, his friend, his co-workers. Do I blame them? No. I don't. Personally, would I have sent a character letter if someone did something as heinous as murder or rape or even domestic violence? No. Personally, I wouldn't. But he has the right to have character witnesses, and if they wanted to do it, they did it. But do I think that it was meant to hurt people? No. I don't. Do I disagree with things that they have said in his character witnesses? Yes. Specifically, Ashton Kutcher. I think for me, the things that he said, and we'll get into it, some of the things he said I don't agree with. But the way that they interpreted his character and the way that they described his friendship and how they were when they were co-stars and co-workers on that 70s show, or even for Ashton Kutcher on The Ranch, I personally, I don't blame him. But that doesn't mean the victims won't feel that same way. It also doesn't mean the public needs to feel that same way. That's just how I personally feel it. To me, am I disappointed in them? Yes. But do I blame them for doing it? No. So that was my piece on their character letters, but we're gonna get more into it. So Jane Doe number 1 spoke a day after Masterson's former That 70s Show co-stars Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis apologized. They apologized after NBC and the other news outlets reported that the couple had written character letters ahead of the sentencing in support of the convicted rapist. And we're gonna go over their post. But they said, "We support victims. We've done this historically through our work and continue to do so in the future." Kunis said in an Instagram video sided with her husband Kutcher the letters, "We're not ready to question the legitimacy of the judicial system or the validity of the jury's ruling. We are aware of the pain that has been caused by the character letters we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson," Kutcher said. Jane Doe number 1 panned their video apology. "This video was incredibly insulting and hurtful," she said Sunday. "My hope is that they learn radical accountability and the importance of self-education to learn when to keep their privilege in check, especially Ashton, who claims to work with victims of sex crimes. And as to Mila, I can only think of Time's Up." Time's Up is an offshoot of the Me Too movement and is an advocacy group that has been working to combat sexual assault and harassment in the workplace and elsewhere. I didn't also agree with what they said in their apology video. To me, I don't think it was hurtful, what they said. They're, of course, giving character witnesses. I don't think anyone would say in their character witnesses condoning what they do. I think it's just, but to say this and like backhanded, like we have historically worked with victims and will continue to do so in the future, and we support victims, but yet you're trying to advocate for him who who hurt multiple women. And I just it's dirty. I don't think their apology, the way they did it, and their apology in and of itself, I personally don't agree with it either. And again, the victims are going to feel how they're gonna feel. Do I necessarily agree with them in this instance? I'm half and half, but their feelings are just as valid about their character witnesses just as much as the two of them. So, um, claims and Masterson was sentenced last Thursday, 4 months after he was blah blah blah. He had been charged with raping 3 women. Jury was deadlocked. J number 2 has on social media also been critical of Kunez and Kutcher for asking Omedia for leniency on Danny. I also agree with the leniency part. Masterson remains confined to a men's jail in Los Angeles, but will soon be moved to the Wasco State Prison Reception Center. The source said there it will be decided where Masterson will serve the rest of his sentence. Alright, so he's in a, he's doing as good as he can be given the situation. Whatever. Who cares about how he's in prison? In notice to Omid on behalf of Masterson, Kutcher and Kunez painted a portrait of the disgraced actor as a faithful friend and role model that was radically at odds with the ruthless predator who drugged and raped defenseless women that his victims described. Other actors who worked with Masterson on that 70s show, like Deborah Jo Rupp and Kurtwood Smith, also wrote letters in support of the fallen actor. So did Masterson's wife, an actor and a model and actor who attended all of her husband's trials, as well as his brother-in-law, actor William Baldwin, and brother and sisters actors Giovanni and Marissa Ribisi, both of whom, like Masterson, belonged to the Church of Scientology. None of them have spoken publicly about the letters they wrote since Masterson's conviction or about the backlash that Kunez and Kutcher addressed in their posts. All have been asked for comment. Christina also weighed in on Instagram with what appears to be criticism for those who spoke up on behalf of Masterson also, although she did not mention anyone by name. So sometimes people who we have loved and admired to do horrible things, she said they might not do these things to us. And we only know who they were to us, but that doesn't mean they didn't do the horrible things, and describe the abused as a crime. Did I immediately respond to requests for comment? The Masterson character letter surfaced after hit the fallen 47-year-old system with the sentence. Masterson's accusers have all been members of Scientology. I didn't choose to be born in Scientology, so I didn't choose to be raped by Danny Masterson, Jane Doe number 1 said in her statement. Ooh. That is true. During legal proceedings, Omido stressed, I don't know how to pronounce the judges. The judge stressed repeatedly that Scientology was not on trial, but allowed witnesses to testify that the church officials pressured them not to talk to the police about the rape allegations. Context, because that is a big thing of why they didn't do it. Scientology. So that is some of the feelings from the victims about the character witnesses. I also want to go back and show some more where am I? So, one of the things that I wanted to also look into was, is he eligible for parole? Because it didn't say he was serving 30 years to life without parole. So, I typed in Google, and I asked, is Danny Masterson eligible for parole? I wasn't sure when he was, if A, he was, and B, when it would be. So I found the answer. And it's not a horrible. It's actually. Could he be eligible for early parole? Maybe. But the judge sentenced the actor after rejecting defense motion for a new trial that was argued early in third. They didn't have a motion for new trial. The sentence was the maximum allowed by law. It means Masterson will be eligible for parole after serving 25 and a half years, but can be held in prison for life. So that means if he is eligible for parole, it won't be until he served a good majority of that sentence. Could he get early parole? Who knows? But they're saying that he will not be eligible until he has served 25 and a half years. Could that change? It could change. We have seen people get earlier parole and not even served half of their sentence. So it could happen. I'm not saying it will. But he might try and get early parole if he has good behavior. So, but he is saying that but for sure, he is not eligible for parole until he has served 25 and a half years. Could it change? It could change, but probably not. Your actions 20 years ago took away another person's voice and choice. One way or another, you'll have to come to terms with your prior actions and their consequences. Again, the judge hitting him hard, and I think not only I appreciate that as an onlooker, but the victims, of course, do too. The main thing I wanted to reference, as this comes up a lot, is his children. And we'll get into that when we get to Ashton's letter, because it does also mention his children. The defendant sought to have sentences for the two convictions run simultaneously and asked for a sentence of 15 years to life. The prosecution asked for the full 30 years life sentence Masterson was eligible for. It's his life that will be impacted by what you decide today, Masterson's lawyer Sean Hawley told the judge before the sentencing, and the life of his 9-year-old daughter, who means the world to him and to whom he means the world. He has lived an exemplary life. He has been an extraordinary father, husband, brother, son, co-worker, and community servant. That last part is to be beg to differ. So again, his lawyers also mentioned his daughter. And they're trying to pull the father card to get a lighter sentence. Think of his children. Think of his 9-year-old daughter. Well, Danny Masterson did not think about what he was doing when he raped 3 women. So now we have to consider his 9-year-old daughter. His 9-year-old daughter can still see him, whether it is in visits at the prison, and she can still talk to him. But to play the father card to ask for a lighter sentence, there are a lot of people who have children that go to jail. You cannot play that I have a child card to get out of it or to get a lighter sentence so you can continue to be in your child's life. You chose to do these awful things. You chose to commit this crime. Now you have to pay for it. You cannot just get away with it. And he got away with it for 20 years. He's got a daughter now. That's fine. That's great. Cool. He has a daughter. But that doesn't mean that because he has a daughter and that he's such an extraordinary father, husband, brother, son, and coworker doesn't excuse what he did 20 years ago. It doesn't. These women do not feel the same way. Clearly. They have said that their bodies felt like a crime scene for 20 years. So, but it's okay because he has a child now. I'm not saying that people can't change, but he still did the crime. He did it, and just because he has a child doesn't mean that he can get a lighter sentence for it. He is not the victim. Just like the judge said, he is not the victim. He did it. Now, not only does he have to pay for it, but his family has to pay for it too by having to see him go behind bars. Don't commit a fucking crime. That's the whole point. If you want to have a future with a wife and child, you shouldn't have committed the crime 20 years ago. He shouldn't have done this to 3 women. Just because he has a child doesn't mean he deserves a lighter sentence. It doesn't. It does not excuse what he did. What he did now, what he is now, is a oh-so-loving father and husband and brother and son and coworker. That's fine. He might be that. Doesn't excuse what he did 20 years ago. It doesn't. He has a kid now that he had 9 years ago. Doesn't excuse what he did 20 years ago to 3 women. It doesn't. Just because it happened 20 years ago doesn't mean what he is now and what he might have changed or has a child doesn't excuse anything. He deserves what he got. So, let's go ahead and read the letter from Ashton Kutcher and Milo Kunis. I don't think I'm going to agree with anything that these people will say. Honorable Judge, my name is Ashton Kutcher. I am an actor, investor, philanthropist, and most importantly, a father. Again, the father tone is really going to bother me. I met Danny Masterson when I was 20 years old in 1998. He instantly became a friend, dedicated coworker, and role model to me. That's fine. And has remained as such for 25 years. Okay. As a friend, Danny has been nothing but positive influence on me. He's an extraordinary, honest, and intentional human being. I wouldn't say he's extraordinarily honest. Over a 25-year relationship, I don't ever recall him lying to me. You must not know him behind closed doors. He's taught me about being direct and confronting issues in life and relationships head on, resolving them, and moving forward. Okay. Danny is a person that is constantly there for you when you need him. We've traveled around the world together, raised our daughters together, again, pulling the daughter card, the child card, I mean, and shared countless family moments. Not only is he a good friend to me, I've witnessed him be a good friend to others and the kind of brother others would be lucky to have. Okay. As a role model, Danny has constantly been an excellent one. I beg to differ. I attribute not falling into the typical Hollywood life of drugs directly to Danny. Okay. That's oddly specific. Anytime that we were to meet someone or interact with someone who was on drugs or did drugs, he made it clear that they wouldn't be a good person to be friends with. There goes half of Hollywood for you then. And for me, that was an implication that if I were to do drugs, he wouldn't be friends with me, which is something I never would want to risk or jeopardize. That is really odd to say. I didn't want to do drugs because I didn't want to lose a good friend. I mean, whatever makes you not do it, but like, you should not want to do drugs because they're bad. I'm not saying I mean the hardcore drugs. Okay. I'm grateful to him for that positive peer pressure. That is so weird to say. It's positive peer pressure. Okay. He also set an extraordinary standard around how you treat other people. There was an incident where we were at a pizza parlor and a belligerent man entered who was berating his girlfriend. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Berating his girlfriend. We had never met or seen these people before, but Danny was the first person to jump to the defense of this girl. It was an incident he didn't have to get involved in, but proactively chose because the way this man was behaving was not right. He has always treated people with decency, equality, and generosity. After 9/11, Danny was a huge advocate for support of the firefighters affected of the fire. I'm sorry, my words are just completely cutting out. Of the firefighters affected by the event, rallying his friends and coworkers to pitch in however they could. All right, he did charity work. At one point, Danny had his daughter a year before I had mine. He set a standard of being a hands-on dad. We have spent countless hours together with our kids, and he is among a few people that I would trust to be alone with my son and daughter. Okay? He's also a dedicated and loyal husband with unwavering commitment to his wife. Okay? We have spent hundreds of hours working together. Danny takes his job seriously. He is kind, courteous, and hardworking. He treated everyone from the drips to the teamsters to the actors to the casters or caterers as equals. The photo is extremely small in this photo. He showed up on time, all the time, and always pulled his weight. We have also traveled around the world together promoting our work. I can honestly say that no matter where we were or who we were with, I never saw my friend be anything other than the guy I have described. While I'm aware the judgment has been cast as guilty on 2 counts of rape by force, and the victims have a great desire for justice, I hope that my testament to his character is taken into consideration in sentencing. I do not believe he is ongoing harm to society, and having his daughter raised without a present father would a tertiary injustice in of itself. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Best, Ashton Kutcher. So, he can say the rest of his letter, it's how he feels personally about him. And again, he has the right to express how he feels. Do I think that any of this undermined, in my opinion, undermined the victims? No. This is how he's perceived him. This is how he interacted with him. This is how he saw him. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's up to how you perceive it. He felt this way about Danny, but he does not know Danny and how he was behind closed doors. Those women were affected by what he did behind closed doors. Now, the part that I do have a problem with, the biggest one I have a problem with, there were some things that made me question, okay, you worded this really weirdly, like the whole drug thing, positive peer pressure, okay? That's great, because you didn't do drugs because you didn't want to lose him as a friend. Fine. It's a weird way to, whatever keeps you out of doing drugs, but still kind of odd to me at least. The part that I had the biggest problem with is that the way he says that it'd be an injustice that his daughter is raised without a present father. So that's the injustice. Not what he did 20 years ago to 3 fucking women. The injustice is that his daughter will be raised without a present father. That is like the biggest fuck you. Like, that's the injustice, not the rape, but that his daughter doesn't have a present father. There are, again, so many people who are behind bars with children who have done very heinous things. Probably shouldn't even had kids. Their children are raised without a present parent. I understand that you want to, that he is a very big, Ashton Kutcher is a very big family man. But to say that the injustice isn't the fact that these women were raped by him and had to go through so much trauma and everything they went through between him and Scientology and how they viewed their own body and how they felt about themselves. The injustice is about him not being present for his daughter. That's what Ashton Kutcher had to say about this whole entire thing. To ask for a lighter sentence because his daughter would have a non-present father. That's just awful to say. You can say all of this how you felt, how you and him interacted, and how you observed how he was to people. But this right here, that's the injustice. That's the big middle finger to the victims. That right here, that is the biggest middle finger to the victims, is that the injustice is that he won't be present for his daughter. That was my biggest concern about his whole entire letter. So let's go ahead and read Milo Kunis's letter to the judge. I am writing this character letter on behalf of my dear friend Danny Masterson, with whom I have the privilege of sharing a significant part of my life. My name is Milo Kunis, and I am an actress, and I believe it is essential to share the remarkable influence Danny has had on my life and the lives of others. I first met Danny during our time working together on that 70s show, and from the very beginning I could sense his innate goodness and genuine nature. Sure. Throughout our time together, Danny has proven to be an amazing friend, confidant, and above all, an astounding older brother figure to me. Okay. His caring nature and the ability to offer guidance have been instrumental in my growth, but both personally and professionally. One of the most remarkable aspects of Danny's character is his unwavering commitment to discouraging the use of drugs. I guess they both had the same influence. His influence on me in this regard has been invaluable. In an industry where the pressures and temptations of substance use can be overwhelming, I do agree on that, Danny played a pivotal role in guiding me away from such destructive paths. His dedication to avoiding all substances has inspired not only me, but also countless others in our circle. Danny's steadfastness in promoting a drug-free lifestyle has been a guiding light in my journey through the entertainment world, and has helped me prioritize my well-being and focus on making responsible choices. Okay, that's fine. I like how she put it way better than Ashton said, that the positive peer pressure. I liked how she put it. Okay, he didn't like drugs. That's fine. And that's fine that he's an influence on both him and both her and Ashton to stay away from drugs. That's fine. That's great. Cool. They don't. So many actors in Hollywood have a huge hardcore drug problem, and I'm not talking just weed. I mean hardcore drugs. So that's great. That's fine. Cool. Okay. That doesn't change my opinion of him. Danny's role as a husband and father to his daughter has been nothing short of extraordinary. Witnessing his interaction with his daughter has been heartwarming and enlightening. He prioritizes his family, education, and happiness above all else, demonstrating his unwavering commitment to being a loving and responsible parent. As a father, he leads by example, instilling in her values that reflect integrity, compassion, and respect for others. Moreover, Danny has consistently displayed a profound sense of responsibility and care for those around him. He demonstrates grace and empathy in every situation, be within the entertainment industry or in our personal lives. His steady support and understanding presence make him a reliable source of guidance and comfort for all of us. Danny Masterson's warmth, humor, and positive outlook on life have been a driving force in shaping my character and the way I approach life's challenges. His unwavering commitment to being an exceptional older brother figure to me has had a transformative impact on my life, instilling in me a sense of self-belief and encouraging me to aim for greatness, but all while maintaining a sense of humility. In conclusion, I wholeheartedly vouch for Danny Masterson's exceptional character and the tremendous positive influence he had on me and the people around him. His dedication to leading a drug-free life and the genuine care he extends to others make him a stunning role model and friend. Please feel free to reach out if you require any further information or clarification. Sincerely, Milo Kunis. I don't have a problem with her statement. That's fine. He led a drug-free life. Cool. And he was influential on others to be drug-free. That's fine. Doesn't excuse what he did, and doesn't change my opinion on him, but okay. This is, again, her viewpoints on Danny. And do I think this was a bad character witness? No, I don't. This is how she feels her relationship with him, and how she had it throughout the years. It's fine. It's valid. Just like how the victims have their feelings on what they said, and their feelings on what happened to them. You know, it's fine. Who played Kitty in Red Foreman, and also read letters as did actor. I do want to read Kurtwood Smith's and Deborah's. All right, so here's Deborah for who played Kitty. My name is Deborah. I'm 72 years old, and I did not realize she does not look 72 years old. I'm gonna be honest. And I live in the mountains in western Massachusetts. I'm writing this letter on behalf of Danny Masterson. I've known Danny and his family since 1998 when I began working with him on that 70s show. I'm aware that Danny is convicted of 2 counts of forcible rape, and though it is so hard for me to wrap my head around this, I respect the law and the court. I always have. That's great. But let's tell you about the young man I know. And again, the people that they know and what he is behind closed doors, not the same person. So, Danny was the leader of the kids of the show. He had the most acting experience and was a little bit older. He was well liked and very respected. And one of the first things Danny did with them was to sit them all down, and had them all make a pact that no one would do drugs because of the nature of our show. Again, I don't see weed as a problem. Maybe he did. Okay. If he didn't like weed, he didn't like weed. But, okay. The spotlight would be on them, and he wanted everyone to succeed. I remember thinking that it was such a smart thing to do and something I would never have thought of. As a result, you never saw them in the tabloids. Danny made sure of that, and I was so appreciative. They all kept their word. That's fine. Danny was also respectful and kind on show days when the camera crew would come in. Danny was the one that shook each cameraman's hand before we started. Okay. He knew everyone's name, where they lived, and about their families. I did not. He was loved over the years. Danny is the one of the few that came to support me by seeing my shows in theater. He brought his family sometimes, and it was a joy, and so appreciated. One night we went to dinner. He had dragged another cast member, his father, and some friends to see me, and it was dark and late after theater. I had to get home in New York City, so Danny called an Uber, paid for it, and escorted me out. There were so many things like this. He was just like that, respectful and kind. Okay. Wilmer Valderrama asked the cast that 70s show to go to his high school graduation. Danny and I were the only ones to go. I don't know who that is, honestly. I remember looking at him and dying. It was outside the valley, in the valley, really hot, and he was a V alphabetically. We laughed so hard during that. It's a really nice memory. Danny just always showed up to support. Oh, okay. Alright, I don't know what that means. Okay. I knew Danny's family through work. I had worked with his brother Chris on another show, and always saw his family hanging out in the dressing room. Danny's dressing room was above mine, and Danny loved music. Many times I found myself going upstairs to ask him to turn it down, and it was always greeted with an apology, a grin, and an instant fix. It's these little things that came to mind when I would think of Danny. I later did his show, The Ranch. He called me at home in Massachusetts. I hadn't done TV in a while, and he offered to me. I was so grateful and touched. I loved hearing him play while his daughter in the hallways, and it was an awesome giggle. So thank you for allowing me to talk about James Madison I love. I just read this letter back. It's so hard for me to express on paper, but I understand that he is facing a lengthy sentence, and I really want to tell you about these moments. He would take time to do it for me. Again, valid. They are valid to have these feelings about him and how they interacted and saw him. It's valid. I don't see anything problematic in these statements. Myself, this is from Kurtwood Smith. My name is Kurtwood Smith. I have been a professional actor for 57 years. The last 43 years working primarily in film and television. It is as an actor that I came to know Danny Masterson. I should mention that I am aware that Danny has been convicted of 2 counts of forcible rape and is awaiting sentencing. I have known Danny since the spring of 1998 when we began filming the television show, That 70s Show. We worked on the show for 8 years, and I consider Danny to be a good friend. Our friendship revolved around work, primarily because of our age difference. We didn't socialize much outside of work, but I saw him every day on the job, whether he had scenes together or not. We had scenes together or not. I believe Dan to be a wonderful actor. When working together, I always found him to be prepared and inventive and responsive to suggestions from the director, myself, and other actors. Dan was also very enjoyable to be around. He was quick wit and a good sense of humor. I look forward to working on scenes with Danny. I should mention that he was extremely popular with the crew. He was usually the first actor to learn every crew member's name. Again, that's fine. 30 days we did it. He never had problems some other shows had with their younger cast. Fine. After the show ended in 2006, I didn't see much of Danny except for occasional events until almost 10 years later when I began playing a return character on the ranch. I guess the ranch was like an indirect. I never watched it, and I'm never going to now. I will not be rewatching that 70s show ever. I cannot look at this man the same way. But does it seem like an indirect reunion for some of these characters that were on that 70s show? Like, they're all saying that they played a recurring character on the ranch. So, Danny was one of the stars of the show. I was happy working with him again. It was also great to see his family. If you know Danny, you know his family. I've known his parents and younger brothers and sisters since we started working on that 70s show. They were a very close-knit family. They seemed to care very much. Danny was now married and the father of a beautiful little girl. It was a treat to spend time with him at work and to be around him and his family. I had met his wife while we were still shooting that 70s show, although they were not married at the time. This must have been after some of his other girlfriends. I found that Danny treated all women on this show with respect. Oh no, Kurt, don't do this. Not only the men in the cast, but women on the crew as well. Oh no, don't play this card. I did not know that he played this card at all. I had no idea. Oh no, don't play this card that he had shown respect to women on the. Oh no. It was my observation he treated the women he married in a respectful and loving way. Later, when we were working on the ranch, I was aware that not only were they a happy couple, but he was a wonderful father to his daughter. Oh no. You do not bring up the cat that he treated the women on the show with respect when you're dealing with someone who I do not agree with this statement right here. Not about the wife thing. I'm not worried about how he was in his marriage, but this part, oh no, I don't agree with you bringing up this. I had the opportunity to watch him with his daughter at the time. She was maybe 2 or 3 years old. It was so clear that how much he loved her and how delighted he was with her. He was so patient and easygoing with her. At one point when she became fussy, he joked with her and made faces, and she calmed down and was laughing. She clearly loved her daddy. It's fine. I consider Danny a talented, hard-working, forgiving actor. I have viewed him being respectful and considerate to those he has worked with. He has been a leader and positive force among his peers. He has seemed loving and caring not only towards his wife and daughter, but his family at large. For all those reasons above, I've mentioned, I consider myself fortunate to have had Danny Masterson in my life. Okay, I say, Kurt, I would not say the respectful to women, because again, you may see that, but how he was behind closed doors, he was not respectful to women. I don't agree with that statement that Kurtwood Smith made. I did not know that was in his character witness letter. I had no idea that was in it. When you're dealing with someone who has raped women, especially multiple women, like Danny Masterson, you definitely don't bring up how respectful he was to women in the women cast. You don't, because it's not the same thing. It is not the same thing. Just because he's respectful in public doesn't mean he's respectful behind closed doors. And clearly, he wasn't. So, now that we have read some of the statements, I want to bring up Jane number 3's her excerpt when this all came out with the sentencing letters. She wrote, "Dear Ashton, I know the secrets your role model keeps for you, ones that would end you. Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone that night you called Danny on February 21st, 2001. I heard everything. I heard the plan. In my opinion, you're just as sick as your mentor." It is alluding that Danny probably has dirt on at least Ashton. And maybe that's part of the reason why he did it. But again, we won't know. And I don't think we will ever know. Dear Mila, I pray you begin to process what you experienced as a child on that set. Your old interviews are very telling. I encourage everyone to watch them and decide for yourself what you hear and see. Do so before they get scrubbed from the internet. I also know what happened in Toronto, and after question if that's what you view as a normal relationship with a big brother figure, then I feel very sad for you, and I hope you consider getting into therapy. You almost forget I was there the whole time, those first 5 years that of that 70s show. I remember everything. So this was a post that she made on her Instagram stories. It's alleging a lot of things that we will probably never know. And she may never speak and tell more about, because in the end she was going after Danny, but Ashen and Mila, who knows. I again feel as though these character witnesses inherently weren't bad. It's how they viewed him. It's just like how when victims make their statements, it's telling you how they feel about what they went through and their trauma and how they feel and how that should impact sentence. Just as if the defendants get that right to do the same thing with character witnesses, saying that he is not all what has been accused to him, and stuff like that. It's a right that not only do the victims have, but also the defendants have. And if this is how all of them feel about him, then who's to say? I do have some gripes with some of them personally, but how the victims feel is a whole different story, and that is very valid as well. You know, it's extremely valid how they feel as well and how they perceived it, and that's completely fine. So to end this off, I want to also watch the video that they posted after their character letters were released or leaked. This I have opinions about this. The way that they come off in this video, and I'm kind of covering the way that Milo Kunis looks, but the way that even the both of them are just like stone cold. This is a PR statement. Clearly, this is PR. But the way that the looks that they gave, it just doesn't seem like they were genuine about it whatsoever. So, in my opinion, I'm not. To me, it's fine that the letters were, of course, intended for the judge. That's the whole point of a character letter. It is intended for the judge. And again, the victims they are extremely valid for the way that they feel. I think the more damning part for me was how Ashton Kutcher put, it's an injustice that his daughter doesn't have a present father, and that should be why he should get a lighter sentence. The others were how they felt and how they knew him, and that's completely fine. But in my opinion, I don't see that as undermining them. I think some things did, but, and again, the victims have a right to feel, and are valid feelings for some of these statements. I would, if I read some of this stuff, it's like putting myself in their shoes, and I read some of this, I would be like, this is your role model? Look what he did to me. Look what he did to me and how he made me feel about myself, the trauma I went through, and the trauma that I have to live with myself and live with in my own body. You know, that's what they're feeling. And all of this is like, this is your role model? This is your someone who kept you out of drugs? Fine, but that doesn't, it would feel invalidating to read all of this as a victim. And it made me think twice about some of these actors. You know, I lost a little bit of respect for Ashton Kutcher by reading that last part. I lost a whole lot of respect for that. But if this is how they went through in life and saw him, fine. You know, it is what it is at the end of the day from an onlooker looking in. You know, that's what we are as the public. I don't blame these actors from writing their character witnesses or character letters on behalf of Danny. I don't. Do I lose a little bit of respect for them? A little bit, yes. It's like you are condoning what he did. But a character letter isn't supposed to be of, well, he did. Well, he's an awful person and invalidates everything that they said. No, but again, what they're saying doesn't equal what went on behind closed doors. And we all know that. There are people that you may think could never do these things, but behind closed doors, you will never know that they're capable of doing these things. And they thought the same thing. So, but that is it for this video. I know it's an incredibly long one and longer than my original Danny Masterson video, but there was a lot to talk about and a lot to discuss between the Jane Doe statements, the sentencing, and of course these character letters that were written by Ashton Kutcher, Maya Kunis, and Deborah and Kurtwood Smith. So I want to end this off saying that I stand with the victims. I don't necessarily like what was said in some of these character letters. I don't really care about him being a role model, and I don't think that invalidates what he did and how he was behind closed doors, because who he is and what the public saw is not behind closed doors. And those women went through that and saw how he was behind closed doors. And they know how he is behind closed doors because they went through the brutal trauma that he imposed on them. He is sentenced 30 years to life, eligibility to parole 25 and a half years into his sentence. And they have a right to speak at his parole hearing, so the parole board can either grant him parole or deny him parole. And they have that impact to maybe deny him his parole, and he has to live out his 30-year sentence. Is he going to appeal? Of course he's going to appeal. I think we all know he's going to appeal. So is this completely over? No. But is this over for the victims in some way and they get some sort of peace? Yes. They know that he's going to appeal. They have the right to speak at his parole hearing in 25 and a half years. They have that right. And do I think that maybe he could win an appeal? My opinion, no. But you never know. But will this be the end of the Danny Masterson saga? Not completely, but we probably won't hear much of it going forward, since the appellate courts take a long time. So, going forward, I will be doing a video at some point. Probably won't be in the near future, but maybe at some point I will be doing like a dive into some of the evidence and some of the testimony that was given at the trial, if I can find it. I would like to discuss the trial some more instead of just his verdict and his sentencing. I do want to discuss the evidence because, again, so many people on my original Danny Masterson video are still, to this day, victim blaming, and I think there is evidence. I think there's proper evidence, and I think the biggest thing to me that definitely swayed me over when I heard about this is the fact that it is 3 women coming forward, and it is criminal charges by the prosecution. And it is no joke if the prosecution and police charge this man, even if it's 20 years later. 3 women, same story, same outcome. They were involved with Danny Masterson, they were drugged, and he raped them. It is not a coincidence. It is not. And to have 3 separate charges means the state of California was confident that the evidence would prove and that the testimony would prove that he did it. And the jury came back and said that it was. So, going forward, I do want to make that video. I don't know when I will do it and when I will put it up, but I do eventually want to talk about some more of the details in the trial. But I do want to thank everyone for watching and subscribing. Leave a like and a comment if you like this video. If you would like to comment, I am being wary of the comments with the victim blaming. But in the end, he is in jail, and he's going to be sitting in jail for a very long time, whether you agree with it or not. He did it. He is in jail, and these 3 women have justice in some way or form. 2 of them got guilty convictions. 1 was a hung jury. And also, they do not plan on retrying the 3rd Jane Doe's case, but they are going, all 3 of them are still going to civil court against Lady Masterson as well as the Church of Scientology. So, I'm assuming the Jane Doe and the prosecution have both come to an agreement that they won't try and retry her charge, which I predicted and is fine. I think she wants to this was probably enough for her. Being able to read that statement is what I mean, that being able to tell her truth regardless. And she is, of course, going to be pursuing him civilly along with the other women against Danny Masterson and Scientology. So, with that being said, again, thank you all so much for watching. And all my links to all my social medias, my Twitch streams, are going to be in the description box below. And I will see you all again in the barracks very soon.